All right, my guest tonight is an actor whose IMDb credits stretch for several miles. In addition to that, he is also a producer and stage actor. Please welcome to Locked on the Block, coming at you from Los Angeles. We got Graham Skipper in the fucking house.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, man, thank you so much for being on, man. It's been a long time, man. I
Yeah,
definitely
wow.
cool to catch up with you, man. So
Yeah.
definitely glad that John Crane, a mutual friend, hooked us up and we were able to chat. So I definitely wanted to ask first, what's it like in LA right now? Because I've heard out here you get mixed reports. Like it's getting better, it's getting worse. It's kind of maybe going to open, but it's slowing down for another 3 weeks. Like some beaches might open, some might not. It's very conflicting. Like how is it on the street over there?
Yeah, it's day to day here. I mean, right now, like in my neighborhood where I am, people are being pretty good about stuff. Everybody's wearing masks. Everybody's kind of staying away from each other. Right now, as far as I understand it, there's still no can't go into restaurants and stuff like that. But you can get takeout and you can order curbside service from stores and stuff. So slow but sure. But I mean, LA County is just being super careful. And has been really good so far. So glad to be where I am, all things considered.
What general area are you in? You don't have to say the street, but like what neighborhood?
Yeah, I'm in an area called Atwater Village, which is sort of on the east side of LA, over near Glendale.
Okay.
We butt right up against Glendale.
No doubt, man. How was the shutdown affected all the fucking awesome Korean food trucks, man? You can go still get that shit, or are they not around anymore?
No, they're
that's
around.
What I'd be looking for.
They're around. Yeah, you can still. I mean, we haven't gone out and gone to them, but you can get them delivered and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. A lot of the food trucks here have been gone. Like they just haven't popped up. I mean, the big name ones like Mamoon's and Astoria, you can still get and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of the real lower, not as well known mom and pops. They've been gone.
I think Los Angeles would completely crumble if food trucks left. That's like such a part of our DNA here.
I've been eating a lot healthier. I could say that. Because there was Chinese wasn't available for a bit because all the distributors are in Maspeth and there was just nothing coming in.
Yeah.
So that was crazy. But as I mentioned in the intro, you're a pretty prolific actor. You've probably died in more movies than most people even acted in at this point, man. So that's pretty impressive,
Thanks, yeah.
But I mean, how much shit did you have in the pipe that's probably now indefinitely on hold or is moving at a snail's pace?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more moving at a snail's pace. Like everything is just kind of slowed way down, and it's not even just stuff in production, but it's stuff that's in post. It's stuff that was in development. It's stuff that, was going to have a festival run and play some film festivals.
Yeah.
All that stuff got canceled too. So really everything's kind of slowed to a crawl. I mean, my understanding is that, all the studios and all the unions are really working on trying to find a way to safely and efficiently have production get back started again as soon as possible. And so I hope that they come to an agreement on that. But yeah, it's wild. I mean, everything's just kind of frozen.
Yeah. Are the festivals even messing with just putting it to 2021 now? Because a lot of concerts they're trying to do that. The bigger shows, reunion shows, big tours, now just added 21 instead of 20 to a lot of the dates.
So, some of the ones have done that. It's weird because take South by, for instance, right? South by was the first one to cancel. Well,
which was shocking, by the way. I mean, that kind of was the first alarm that, wow, this actually might
be
a serious really thing. Real. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, South by, I had friends that had films that were going to play at South by, and it's not like they're just taking those films and then they're going to play them in the 2021 festival. Yeah. It's that festival just kind of never happened. They can still use the laurels, that they were going to get, and the be able to put in their press releases, this was a South by Southwest official selection. Yeah. But they're never going to get that, that big premiere or any of that stuff. What some festivals are doing, and actually just this past weekend, the Chattanooga Film Festival, which is a fest that I is very near and dear to my heart and is a really great film festival. They were one of the first to do a fully online film festival this year. So they partnered with Microsoft and they did a really amazing job of being able to securely have new films up on VOD for just the duration of the festival. So just the 4 days. And you could pay a fee, a ticket fee to be able to watch these, as many of these movies as you wanted over the course of the weekend.
Well, that's cool.
And the Microsoft helped them, make it really secure so that the films couldn't be pirated. They had other live events, I participated in some of them. And so the, it was a really, great thing that they did. And I think that they showed that it's possible to, to sort of carry on and do stuff online if this continues in the way that it is.
Yeah, I'm just curious because now with music, it's like interesting because a lot of artists are holding off on their releases, but a lot of them are also just like, all right, I'll just drop it and hope for the best. And there's so many things being put out. Do you think there's because everyone's stuck at home because Netflix is huge? Do you think there's a lot of stuff just being thrown into Shudder and Netflix into the void that is being rushed up and thrown out to try to capitalize on eyeballs now? Or do you think people are actually still trying to do a promotional cycle?
That's a good question. I think that a lot of the bigger films are still trying to find that theatrical window, which, theoretically is going to happen later this year. But I think that uh, I don't know. That's actually a really good question. I'm not sure if you know, distributors are going like, well, just put it out, just put it out. We need eyeballs. I mean, a great example of how this is actually sort of benefiting indie film in a way, because there's just kind of nothing out there right now. So it's, we're able to highlight indie films. There's an amazing film called The Wretched that's out right now. That's currently the #1 film in America in the box office because of drive-ins. And
it's about Back to the fucking Future, man.
Right. Yeah. But it's amazing because this is an indie film, that my buddies made. It's really great, but here they are, the #1 film in America. And so I think that everybody's just kind of adjusting to this new normal. I think drive-ins are totally going to be coming back in a big way because I think that it's going to take a while until people really feel comfortable going back to a movie theater. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Well, it sucks for people in the city who don't have cars, but
yeah.
can't ride your bike, I guess. But it's interesting too. I mean, 50% capacity is a thing they're talking about. I mean, personally, I love watching a movie in the movies, but I like going on Tuesday morning when it's just me and 3 retirees because I hate teenagers.
Yeah, that's when
people that talk and people on their phones bootlegging "You're Where I'm At" and putting it on fucking Snapchat and shit.
Yeah, no, this one I go to. I tend to go during the weekday, 10 a.m. screenings. Nobody else is there. It's great.
Yeah, it's just the awesomeness. Can actually enjoy it and get immersed in it without seeing that cell phone light 4 fucking rows down, which is super annoying to me. But I mean, like I said, it's been a while since I've seen you. I've seen a couple of your movies. I haven't gotten to catch them all because you've done a lot. But Downrange was really sick. I think that was the first one that I saw a couple of years back, and that was I've noticed you seem to play a cop a lot. How did you get roped into that?
I play a cop a lot, yeah. I think I played a cop in 6 movies or something like that. I don't know what it is about me that says cop, but yeah, I played a cop in a few.
Yeah, and then I just recently watched Bliss, where you were definitely not a cop.
Definitely not a cop. No, I would not get along with cops in that movie.
That movie kind of freaked me out because the main character reminded me so much of this girl that I grew up in high school who was just this hostile maniac, person that was always on a fucking rampage. It was actually giving me PTSD watching it, reminding me of that shit.
Nice.
But that was a crazy fucking movie, man. I mean, it was very 70s filter, psychedelia meets kind of reminded me of a Tales from the Crypt episode though, kind of,
Yeah, I feel that. Thanks. Yeah, I'm really proud of that movie. I know that Joe Vegas, the director, that really came from a personal place for him, and I think it's his best film so far. And he really, fought to you talk about a 70s filter. It wasn't a filter. I mean, we shot that thing on 16 millimeter film.
That's awesome.
And which is something unheard of for a low budget film these days. And Joe really fought to do that, and I think it totally worked. Yeah, super proud of it, and I'm just in awe of all the amazing actors that literally bled for that movie. It was a tough shoot, but it was really well worth it.
Yeah, soundtrack was really cool too. I love that maniac cop Carpenter Brute style fucking 80s thumping, Streets of Rage type shit. It was definitely really cool.
Steve Moore, he's a master. I mean, he's now done 3 of Joe's films, and his stuff is amazing. You can find he's Steve Moore on his own, but he also has a band called Zombie, and his stuff with Zombie is really incredible.
Zombie with a Z or an X?
Zombie with a Z, but it's Zombi.
All right.
No E.
Zombie sounds like a fucking workout routine for fucking soccer moms or something. That's cool though. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm with that. And then I didn't get to watch VFW yet, but I saw the trailer, man. What was it like working with the fucking sensei from Cobra Kai? That must have been fucking awesome.
I mean, they were all amazing. It was just incredible to like be in the same room with those guys and like sit in a circle, you know, and like talk to them and just hear them tell stories. It was amazing. Yeah, I highly recommend that movie. Yeah, Martin Kove, you know, from Cobra Kai was just like such an animal, you know, like doing, and everybody did their own stunts. Everybody was very kind, you know, everybody was super professional. And you know, was just there to like make the meanest, most badass movie that we possibly could. It was great.
Yeah, I always love Fred Williamson and everything. Shout out to the Oakland Raiders. But
Yeah.
he's that guy is no joke. Fucking that must have been awesome. Like,
Oh yeah, I mean every single one of them. It was just sort of always just a weird surreal dream to like walk into the space every day and just see all of them sitting there. And just, God, where the hell am I?
yeah, it's fucking awesome, man. I mean, it's always cool. It's a good, it's a good story, man. You know, you were in New York. Like, I know you from New York, from hanging out in Hell's Kitchen, obviously, and from, our friend circles. That's how I found your comedy troupe. Fucked, and like we got to be cool and shit. And you left New York and went to LA, and you're crushing it in the fucking like film field. Like, how was that journey for you? Just to be like, all right, I've done this for X amount of years. I'm gonna go to the other coast and just take a shot at like just going all in on this.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely sort of a weird journey that, totally came about just because of serendipity and just a series of like really bizarre, lucky events. I moved out here initially because I got cast as the lead in a show called Reanimator the Musical. And it was a total dream role working with one of the most iconic horror directors of all time, Stuart Gordon. So to get to like work with him and to get to play this role in this amazing show, was just something that I couldn't really turn down. And, I nor would I ever want to. So I jumped at the chance and I came out here and initially the show was just going to run for, I think, like 4 weeks. And then it got extended to 6 months. So it was a huge hit. And it was about that time that I was like, well, I'm meeting a lot of people out here and I'm, now definitely a part of the horror, film community out here in LA, which is, something that I've always wanted to do, which was make horror films. And so it was, a tough decision to ultimately make the choice to leave New York. But it was the right decision, and at that time it was just kind of like, okay, well, I have this opportunity and I got to take it. And I think that that's really kind of the secret to success just in general is like everything is luck ultimately. Like everybody can get super lucky one way or unlucky in the other. But when you have those lucky moments, then you just got to take advantage of them. And so that's what I did.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I mean, now, you're paying for hot dogs at Pink's now instead of getting free at Rudy's. But like, aside from that, you're fucking
I
crushing.
know, I know. I miss Rudy's. I miss Rudy's hot dogs.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, well, how has lifestyle changes been though? I mean, in general, like I remember, some pretty cool parties in Hell's Kitchen and shit and whatnot. But like, things slowing down and over there, or like, or is it? What's the scene like? Like,
Yeah, I mean, LA is generally just a slower city than New York. LA is also, in general, a more early to bed city than New York.
yeah.
And LA is just more spread out. So like, if you're going to a party, you got to drive there, you got to find parking, you got to like watch how much you drink because you got to drive back, or you're going to be Ubering everywhere, but it could take like half an hour to get from one end of town to the other. So it's just kind of like a different sort of vibe. But parties though, what I have been doing recently, starting a little over a year ago, I co-founded a organization, I guess you'd call it, called Rated R Horror Speakeasy. And it's a horror themed pop-up bar. And sort of the goal with it was to try to bring the vibe of like that New York warehouse party, but to LA, and of course make it horror themed. And it's been a total blast, and we of course, it's not been able to happen for a while now. But we have 400 or 500 people show up at a time. We have aerial acrobats, we have horror DJs, we show horror films, we have a horror arcade, we do all that stuff. And so the idea is just to try to throw those big kind of parties that I think we were used to in New York, which you just don't see as much of out here. And just make sort of a fun place for horror fans and horror professionals to go and hang out in a place surrounded by the stuff they love.
So it's like a horror theme type rave or something. That's really cool.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Kind of like the thing you would see in movies too, like, in like Stigmata or The Crow or something, like these like huge parties where everyone's kind of like dressed like Hellraiser and shit.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So have you seen any weird shit though since the lockdown? I mean, that's what I always ask everybody in every city. Like just bizarre, non sequitur things, strange things you see people doing that are now out of the ordinary, or just like I say, I'm always seeing people driving with masks, smoking cigarettes through their masks, just doing weird things. You know?
Yeah. I haven't. I mean, I haven't been out much. Like I've literally only gone to the grocery store. You know, we've been under a pretty severe lockdown here in LA. But I guess the weirdest thing was I was in the grocery store and I saw this one, it's mandatory to wear a mask in the grocery store. Like they you stand in line and, if you don't have a mask, you don't get in. And I was in there and I was walking down an aisle and there was a dude without a mask on, which already like sort of was like, wait, what? How do you even get in here? And he was like slowly just perusing the condom shelves. Just like he was looking for a fine wine, or like he was, trying to select like a movie to watch that night. But it was just like looking at the condom, and I just kind of walked the other way and went down a different aisle. But every time I would walk past him, like over like 15, 20 minutes, he would still just be there, just looking at all the condoms. And eventually he was gone. So I guess somebody kicked him out. But I guess that's the weirdest thing that I've seen. I just haven't been out to see anything really.
Well, the guy was really just looking for some sheepskin or something from 71 or something.
I guess so. Yeah.
Nah, that's wild, man. So just getting back around, what else were you like? Once this all hit, obviously production, everything slowed. What have you been doing to get by, per se? I mean, because you write, right? You produce. You're involved in several facets of production besides acting. Like, how have you been able to like just find ways to keep finding streams of income, or you're not? Like, I'm not, so I'm just messing around,
Yeah. No, I mean, well, fortunately, writing, which isn't always, very lucrative, but it's something you can do, and that helps like production continue on. You can keep doing that all the time, so that's been great. Really is just to be able to sort of focus on that a little bit. But yeah, I've got a couple of small like editing gigs that I've been working on that I've been able to work on from home. I'm in a writer's room for another thing that has been continuing on, which I've been very thankful for. And so I've been able to keep working on that. And then I've got, just other scripts and films in various stages of development that you just sort of keep, trying to keep alive, and you try to keep the plates, spinning, or you try to keep the balls in the air, whatever, metaphor you want to use. And just sort of wait for, just keep your finger on the pulse of when production's going to get going again. But you just sort of find like little odd jobs and keep going until those run out, and then I don't know what happens.
Yeah. One thing I was kind of been curious about is like horror in film is like a niche that's always got a built-in audience, kind of the way metal does with music. Do you find that certain things, like if you were like, all right, I'm not going to, I want to try to get away from maybe this and try to do a comedy or something else, is it a much difficult or different path to follow as opposed to just working on horror? And is it like, I mean, obviously you have a network, you're built into something, but if you decided, maybe I want to try a rom-com just for shits and giggles, like, what's it like in different industries, like that were in the industry?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that on the one hand, I'm a pretty firm believer in kind of, if you build it, they will come. Like if you make something of quality, then people will want to watch it and they'll be able to sell it. Obviously it's not as easy as that, but I do believe that if you make a good product, that it'll find its home. Regarding, working in the horror industry, and then, if I were to try to make, like you said, like a rom-com instead, how would that work? Really, it's just different avenues of like distribution. So like, a sales rep that I used on like my movie Sequence Break maybe wouldn't be the right sales rep for some, rom-com that I would make. But there are sales reps that rep that stuff. So then I could talk to him and I could, find it. You just sort of like figure out how to do it. Me personally, I'm very dedicated to being in the genre space, meaning like horror, sci-fi, fantasy, that sort of world. Yeah. And so I feel less inclined to branch totally out of that, simply because that's the sort of thing that I'm interested in. But like horror stuff, like you said, there's a very dedicated fan base. and they're all, very much looking for new content all the time. They're very supportive. People, tend to be really fervent about, seeking out new work, supporting new artists, championing the things that they really like. Um, and so, with horror, you just kind of have that built in. I think that with like romantic comedies, you don't have quite as, fervent a fan base maybe
Yeah.
as
There's
that.
also, there's no conventions for romantic. Well, maybe there are. See, I don't actually know.
Yeah, and there might be,
But
and honestly, like there's it's different strokes for different folks, and that's why, certain artists make, rom-coms and certain ones make horror, and but that's not to say that I'd never be interested in making something that's non-horror. Of course I would. I just want to tell good stories, and I think that that's sort of at the heart of every project is what's the story, and how are you going to make it yours, and how are you going to make it unique.
well, that's the crux of it. I mean, effects and blood and gore and anything can only take you so far. You got to have a compelling reason to keep people engaged. People forget that. Where they keep telling the same story over and over and over again, and it becomes predictable.
Right. Yeah.
But do you get out and do conventions at all? Like, do you make appearances and that shit, or for beyond like shopping purposes? Like,
yeah, I've never actually gone and like sat at a convention and signed autographs and stuff. I've gone to them before. I've sat on some panels at some conventions, which has been super fun. I guess the closest that you could kind of call, to me appearing at stuff would be like going to film festivals. When I'm repping films that I'm in or that I've produced or that I've been a part of at these film festivals. Which by the way, like is such a great way for people to go and experience the films and meet the filmmakers. Even more than cons is go to a film festival.
yeah,
Cons are great and cons are totally cool and are awesome, but like film festivals, I think a lot of people, I don't know, for some reason, like there's a lot of people that just don't quite realize that they're really a thing that you can actually buy a ticket to and go. That's how I really met the international horror community, was just going to film festivals.
yeah.
And and being there and just experiencing the art along with everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, here we have Tribeca, obviously, and like
Yeah.
IFC and whatnot. They get pretty busy, I mean, people definitely are involved in it. But yeah, I've never been out to Sundance or out to Cannes or anything like that, So.
Yeah, Cannes is like a wild experience. I went there like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I can't remember. And
Were you on that beautiful stage with like the sea behind it and all that?
oh yeah, I mean it's like it's nuts. It's so fancy. What was funny though, everybody said we got to bring a tux, so I rented a tux and I brought a tux.
Were you just there to hang, or were you there promoting something, or?
So I was there because my film Sequence Break was screening at the film market. And so I was going for that. I didn't really need to go, to be honest, but I wanted to go. I wanted to experience it, and I wanted to meet people. I'm really glad that I did. I mean, it was, it's the place where literally like everybody in the film industry is there at the exact same time. And it was funny because, horror people tend to stick together. And so, I showed up and I had this tux in my bag and like I had suits and all this stuff. And they were like, you don't need to worry about that. You're going to be hanging out with horror people. Just like wear your, horror movie t-shirt and jeans, and look sharp. And like you'll just hang out with these cool people all day, and so that's what we did. And it was great. Yeah, it was, I was very glad somebody gave me some good advice before going, as they said, wear comfortable shoes. And I never quite, thought about that. But all you're doing all day is just walking back and forth along the beach, like to different like venues in different areas. And so I just remember my feet were like destroyed by the but yeah, I'll be excited when Cannes comes back. Obviously it had to get canceled this year, which is like insane. But it'll be back just like everything will be.
Yeah. Yeah, Steph Crane highly recommended I watch Sequence Breaks. That's the next one on my list.
Oh, nice.
Didn't
Good.
get to yet, but
Good.
What were you were gonna, if Cannes was going down, you had something new to bring there? Or?
No. I just, it's just in general like a disappointment that it's not happening, along with all the other festivals. It's so much happens, there, because it's not just a film festival; it's a film market.
Sure.
It's where thousands of movies get bought and sold every year. So that's really like kind of the beating heart, one of the beating hearts of the industry. But it's yeah, it'll come back, and I hope to go back someday. Any excuse that I will have eventually to shop something there, be there again, I will go in a heartbeat.
Nice. If you could acquire the rights to anything that was an influence to you to remake, what do you think you would take a crack at?
Oof, gosh.
And don't worry about money. Just go crazy,
Yeah,
whatever.
I know. I mean, gosh, that's hard. I've always wanted to do a remake of Event Horizon.
Yeah,
Um,
dude, I want to see Jake Noseworthy's eyeballs explode. That'd be fucking
yeah,
awesome. Like
yeah,
with the new actor doing that again.
yeah. It's like I feel like, and I love Event Horizon, but I feel like sort of the reason to remake movies is if there's something that's imperfect about the film that's already been made, um, or if you have like a new twist on it or a new like angle. And so I kind of feel that Event Horizon would be a fun one to kind of go into that world a little bit, explore.
What would
Um,
your criticisms of that movie be? I thought that was pretty good, but what do you think?
oh, it's great. I think that it suffers a little bit from like some of the comedy because I think it has a little bit of that like mid '90s comedy that seems a little like shoehorned into it. There's also some outdated CGI that when you watch it now, it's just a little, it like kind of takes you out of it.
Yeah.
But it's and I would want to, as Paul W.S. Anderson originally intended, I would love to see more hell stuff. You see like 2.5 seconds of it or something.
Liberate tutame. It's like, yeah, it was
Yeah,
basically
yeah, yeah,
it. Yeah. The
yeah.
Sam Neill, whatever. Like, yeah, well, that was what was that? 1997. That fucking movie. 98.
Yeah, I would have been 96 or 97, I think, because I remember me and my friends snuck into it, and we were probably 13. So yeah, probably like 96, 97.
That movie Ad Astra kind of reminded me of Event Horizon. It was different, but it was again maniac floating around Neptune,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
doing
yeah.
some crazy shit.
Definitely some Event Horizon vibes. Yeah.
That was a good one. I'd like to see somebody remake The Holy Mountain. If you've ever seen that, I think that'd be pretty wild.
Oof. How could you remake that? Like that's, such a singular vision. That's such like it's like straight out of Jodorowsky's soul. That
Yeah,
movie.
it's an entire philosophy just committed to visual art. But I feel like
Yeah,
today you could just do it. I mean, obviously you'd want those Technicolor sets rebuilt, but I think you could do the alchemy better and maybe make it a little
sure.
less disjointed, perhaps.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But I'm surprised no one's. I mean, the only thing that Jodorowsky ever touched that got redone was Dune, which he never completed, or even really got, and that got cycled into 1,000 different movies.
Yeah. I mean that he influenced a whole bunch, but that obviously never even like really got off the ground. I mean he was deep into pre-production on it, but yeah, never actually shot anything. But yeah, I'm a big Jodorowsky fan, and I think the documentary about Jodorowsky's Dune is like really phenomenal. It's one of my favorite documentaries of the past like 10 years.
I liked it a lot too. I love seeing how it evolved into, the sets ended up in Alien, the designs for this ended up Shockwave from Transformers was like one of the ships or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
There was that. Yeah, I definitely love Jodorowsky. I mean, I loved El Topo. I loved Santa Sangre.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to King Shot, but I guess it's never happening. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I really loved, the Dance of Reality. That was great. Did you ever get to see that? His latest?
No.
Oh, it's fucking phenomenal. It's all about him and his father. It's really great.
Brontis and his father, or
No,
Alejandro and his father?
it's about Jodorowsky and his father, but like it's like that's what the movie's like about, but it's
Okay.
not starring Jodorowsky.
No, but it was like a documentary type thing, or just like a drama
It's
based
like a
on it.
it's like a dramatization. Well, it's a Jodorowsky version of a dramatization. About like he like made a movie that's metaphorically about him and his father, but it's really about like if you're talking like narratively, it's about like an opera singer and a I don't know. There's like a kid that like kills a bunch of fish. I don't know. I can't remember. A lot of stuff. Yeah.
All right. Like Luke Skywalker style fucking killing fish, like in the Last Jedi,
Yeah,
or just
something like that. Yeah, but it's great. Yeah, it's called The Dance of Reality. It's really moving.
Oh, check it out. I got nothing but time. Like I never, I've been so busy the last couple of years. I haven't really gotten to see a lot of things. I'll see maybe
Yeah.
3 movies in the movies a year. The ones that you have to go see to be part of the conversation, obviously, and then I'll try to go. I went and checked out the last film that Guy Ritchie put out, which was kind of a disappointment. But I'm glad he's still doing something.
Was it the Camelot one?
No, the one with the
Robin Hood.
gentleman, the one with like Matthew McConaughey is like a weed dealing drug lord in England.
Oh, that one. Yeah. I haven't seen that one.
It's all right.
Yeah.
It'll get you through. Like if you need something to watch for an hour and a half on a Saturday afternoon, it'll get you through.
Yeah. Cool.
No, I can't give it a glowing endorsement, but I'm glad he's still out there doing things.
Yeah, sure.
So you're really not getting out much. How are you doing any kind of like social distance hang, like where people like around here, like, we're obeying the rules, but you can meet your friends in an industrial zone where no one bothers you and stay 6 feet away and be cool. Like that seems to be what we've evolved to maybe meet up when we're not doing Brady Bunch sessions on Zoom where everybody talks over each other,
Yeah, I've got a buddy of mine that lives in this area. And periodically he'll come over and we'll do like a social distance walk through the neighborhood, and we're both wearing masks and we'll kind of walk on other sides of the street, but be able to talk and like see each other a little bit. But that's really kind of the extent of it. I mean, I know that there are some people that I know that are like going to parks and like kind of doing what you're talking about and staying 6 feet away from each other. But even up until really recently, that stuff's been technically not allowed. It's been super, super strict. So, really we've just been doing a lot of Zoom meetings and occasionally, that social distance walk, which is nice, but it's just such a bummer. It's like, I just want to go like hang out with people and like, go sit at a bar with my buddies and like, I don't know, talk with loud music happening.
I don't even know what's going to even happen because a lot, some of the bars that, I frequent, they did serve food and those bars are allowed to sell to-go drinks and they are to an extent keeping afloat for now, but the ones that only just did cocktails or beers, they can't open. And, I've seen a major drop in the neighborhood, that I live in, especially where like, it's families. And I don't see the amount of like tattooed bartenders and rockers walking around that I used to, because I guess they've had to all go back to wherever they came from, points unknown or whatever else, and it's kind of a real shame because it kills the flavor. You need new blood to keep a city thriving, like.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's been weird. I mean, we have a lot of really great, bars in our neighborhood that just are shuttered, and I don't know when they're coming back. I don't know if they're coming back. I know that California has been pretty good about, mandating some like mortgage and rent relief things for businesses like that. But even then, I don't know how far that extends, and it's a tough place to have a business anyway. So it's like with all this going on and, 4 or 5, 6 months of no income, like I just don't know how any place is going to stay open. It's a big bummer. And I hope that they do because, I just don't know what it's going to look like sort of without them.
Yeah. Wonder how many movies about this era are going to be. I mean, I'm starting like by like next year, we're going to be seeing like 5-part CNN documentaries about all this. And it's already surreal enough living through it. Like,
Yeah, it'll be curious to wonder, like when movies start happening again, like when movies start being filmed again, like if you have an outdoor scene, say like hypothetically, are you just going to sort of have it be a world where people are wearing masks? Like it's it's our world, and I don't know how long this is going to last, and I don't think anybody does. And so I think it's just kind of a thing to wonder of like, in the same way as we embraced people having bell bottoms in the 70s, I think that the early 2020s are going to be about people wearing masks. Just kind of going to be the fact of it.
It's possible. I mean, but to contrast that, I mean, I've been to Japan and China. I know you have, but like you see every, I'd say in Tokyo, maybe like I see 30-40% of people just walking around with masks on a daily basis anyway. Definitely quite a few in China.
Right.
But the films that I've seen come out of there hasn't necessarily reflect that in the populace. I mean, maybe I didn't notice. I'm actually trying to think about that now.
I mean, I think
not that I watch a shit ton of Japanese cinema, but I've seen some things, like.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that I think that you do, and I think that's a good and valid point. I think that I think the biggest change just will be in what we see, coming out of the U.S. Because you're right, like in a lot of those countries like Japan and China and South Korea, like it's just way more common for people to wear masks all the time. And it's just not really the case in America, and so like it would be sort of unthinkable once upon a time to like have a shot of like Times Square with like 1,000 people walking through it and most of them are wearing masks, but now it'll just kind of be something that people are kind of used to. And movies date themselves all the time, like that's totally. Kind of how it is. But it'll just be interesting to see kind of how we adapt and how how art reflects what this time did.
Oh, definitely. Well, it'll be like that St. Anger snare drum. It's just going to take its own time. If you got a
Right.
mask, everyone's going to know that, that was 2020. I mean, it's just bizarre. I mean, I don't know. I got a feeling things are maybe even, it's going to be a crazy summer, I think. I mean, St. Paul's on fire right now. Wild stuff is going on. Not that's related to the disease. That's
Yeah.
related to other systemic problems, that isn't
Yeah.
being helped by the disease, certainly,
Yeah, well, and there's a lot of stuff bottled up in this country that's now kind of erupting because everybody's sort of stuck with themselves and I think forced to kind of reckon with a lot of stuff. Yeah, I know it's gonna be a wild summer. It's 2020. When we look back on it, it's just gonna be one weird year, and I think it really has the potential to like totally alter, kind of the way that we go about life in America.
Oh, we're on a new trajectory. Like the Earth went around the sun, and we're careening into like the cosmos. It's certainly in a societal way. I think things cannot go back to the way they were, and to attempt to do that would be utter folly. I would think, because it's just this didn't come out of a vacuum. Like this situation wouldn't be what it is if there weren't so many structural cracks to allow this collapse. Like.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Again, every problem, is ultimately systemic. Even the pandemic. Everything is rooted in a thousand other things, and I think that, we're sort of slowly, I hope, starting to realize what a lot of those things are, and so we'll start, instead of putting band-aids on stuff, we'll start actually making some changes.
Yeah, I could see at the county and state level that happening. And certainly other countries are going to get well ahead on doing that. So, I mean, it's good to look to the future for innovation that way.
Yeah.
But let's take it back to TV and film. I mean, it's interesting to watch like Saturday Night Live being done in this kind of format where it's boxes on a screen. Have you thought about doing any kind of, have you gotten out there with anything, done any kind of like live thing, or just done any kind of updates or anything?
Yeah, like I was talking about the Chattanooga Film Festival, and one event that I participated in live there, which is also an event that I participate in live, periodically anyway. It's a group called Scripts Gone Wild, and what it is it originally was these live events here in LA, and then since the quarantine, they've been doing it live over Zoom every Wednesday. And what they are is they're drunken live script reads of like famous movie scripts with actors and comedians and like personalities reading the different roles, and then all of they take donations for a charity, and so and they do really great work, and they get a lot of money for really good charities, and so I've been participating in a lot of those. Like I said, they happen every Wednesday, and they have a YouTube channel which is just Scripts Gone Wild, and sort of the idea is that it's a drinking game, right? So like everybody is drinking, everybody's reading is drinking, and then if you mess up your line or you like miss your cue or something, you got to take a drink. And then there's one common drink word that if anybody says that word in a line of dialogue, then everybody has to drink.
Social, yeah.
Yeah, and so good Lord, like we read the 1966 Batman for one of them.
Oh man, who got to be the Riddler?
The Riddler was
out to the ghost of Frank Gorshin.
No, the Riddler. Oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? The voice of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, nice.
I'm blanking on his name. That's horrible. It'll come to me. But like I read Robin, right? Well, the audience always chooses what the social word is going to be. And the social word they chose was fucking Batman. So every time I said Batman, every time anybody said,
they wouldn't
Batman,
pick Pow or Biff, like something more fun.
Yeah, right. Oh my God, it was fucking crazy. But that's what that is, and it's really fun. And for Chattanooga Film Festival, we read The Thing, which was a total blast. With Barbara Crampton as McCready, she was phenomenal. Yeah.
Did you get to be the dude who was listening to the old baseball games, or?
I was Norris, so I'm the guy whose chest opens up and tries to eat everybody.
All right, I remember. Surprised, did they remake that movie? I'm surprised they haven't.
Well, they did. So they did, kinda. They did it's weird. Like technically what they did was a prequel to it, but it had a lot of the same like story beats, so it was kind of a remake.
So it was like Aliens vs. Predator, but it was basically the same movie in Antarctica anyway, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it wasn't great. The remake was great, but Scripts Gone Wild is good, and that's sort of the thing that I've been participating in. and then just doing a whole lot of podcasts. I've never been more busy with podcasts in my life.
Nice.
Yeah.
Got to get on Joe Rogan, man. Get that Spotify money. Yeah.
Yeah, right. There you go.
That's going to be a fucking interesting thing, though. With him going to Spotify, that's going to cause YouTube to need to gobble somebody and make them exclusive, and then Apple do the same thing.
Yeah.
And now, with him going there, he hasn't even done an episode for Spotify yet, and he's now the biggest person on there. He just supplanted Drake as the superstar of the Spotify. It's like, and now they're starting a video platform just for him. Do you think fucking movies are going to go over there? Like it's going to be like the iTunes store?
Well, I'm sure they will. I'm sure that pretty much everybody's going to try to start their own streaming service. That's what I think is going to ultimately happen. But then I think what will happen beyond that is I think that every streaming service is going to find their own identity, so that instead of it just being like choose one of 100 that are all kind of the same thing but with different movies, it's going to be like, what's your flavor, And I think that they're doing that. Like, obviously, like Netflix, is leaning really hard into original content. So it's like, if you like what Netflix is producing, then you're going to want Netflix. Shudder, I think, is a phenomenal service. And obviously they're the masters of horror. They are the ones that do horror. They get horror. They get horror better than any of the other streaming services. So if you're a horror fan, you got to get Shudder. And then same with, like Disney Plus. Like, look, if you have kids and you like Disney stuff, you got to get Disney Plus.
Yeah, I'm paying for that. And it's like, I'm glad to have the movies, whatever. But I like the, oh my God, Jeff Goldblum's friggin' documentary is awesome. Obviously, everybody got it for The Mandalorian, and now you got to wait till October for more of it.
Yeah, yeah. It's just gonna be interesting to see how everything kind of plays out, and see which ones kind of survive. I think that I just don't know how all of the like CBS All Accesses and all of the individual networks having their own is really going to work, because ultimately that just becomes cable again.
Well, that's what the bundle is. I mean, I've got Hulu, and I have Hulu with my Spotify and ESPN. Like the three of them are one thing. And now I'm concerned Rogan being there is going to make that price double too. Like that's the other thing. Like once they get you, it always goes up.
Yeah.
And then when you're approaching, it's true though. If you have that, and you have Netflix, and you have Shudder, you basically have cable. I mean, and you have 5, 2, 4, and 11 for free anyway. So
yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, these, and especially now that, after COVID, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with movie theaters. Because I know a lot of those are really struggling right now, and it's going to be wild. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, but even the big ones, like even AMC, is like struggling. Like,
well, they will lose some in some markets. I guess they'll be able to, and also the big rental ones, Union Square and fucking 6th Avenue and whatnot. Right. They got to be exorbitant to try and run, Oh
yeah, well, but I mean, like I read, like AMC might be filing for bankruptcy. Like these are huge companies that are really, struggling a lot, and so it'll be curious to see like who swoops in and buys up those spaces. Will they just be turned into like retail stores?
What tends to happen is corporate rating, like Bain Capital, Mitt Romney, people come in and they use leverage buyouts to buy these companies against their own debt. And then their next fiscal year, their operating numbers are in the red by a factor of 1 million, and they eventually go under, that's how all these companies get destroyed,
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm really hopeful for the future of movie theaters, because they were already kind of struggling anyway. And then this, I'm worried about what COVID's going to do for them. But I think companies like, Alamo Drafthouse, like I think they have the right idea where they're making it more of an experience of like, here's why you should come out here and why you should come experience this with us, rather than, spend less money and watch it in your home.
Drafthouse is cool because they'll have like maybe 2 or 3 movies in a row on one ticket. I mean, they just got to get like a tube that comes out so you don't have to get up to go pee at their chairs. Right. That would be like the next invention that would be ultimate there,
Exactly.
But also, the COVID, the lockdown has shown people's willingness to pay $20 to have a new movie on their TV screen too, though.
Right.
Which definitely, it'll make people think twice about how they distribute things, as bigwigs too,
Right. Well, I mean, I think that's a totally valid point. I think it's going to change everything. I mean, like, imagine how, like right now to see a movie in LA, like a movie ticket is like $15, right? So either for me and my wife to go see a movie, it'll be $30 for tickets plus $20 for parking plus, you know, $20-$30 for like popcorn, you know, or if we get dinner beforehand, like there's $50, you know, so like it's either $100 night out, or I can spend $20 and we can watch it at home.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
You know, and so I think that a lot of people are realizing, oh, we can do that. And I think the studios, which I think it was Trolls, that was the movie that kind of they first tried it with, and it was just a huge success. I think that they're going to start going.
That really pissed off the movie theaters too, because they were
Right.
expecting that and it got pulled out from under them. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they just couldn't, you know, they couldn't do it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting post COVID to see kind of how that plays out, because I fear that the studios kind of have, you know, the movie theaters a little bit, you know, raked over the coals, or I don't know what, been over a barrel, or whatever the term is, you know, just because they kind of, with Trolls and everything, they've kind of, you know, shown that like a lot of those big movies, you know, they can circumvent having to put it out in a theater and they'll do just fine.
Yeah.
You know, which is disappointing to me as somebody who thinks that the theater is like an integral part of the movie going experience.
It also gives the studios and the producers so much more power. You know, now they can be like, oh, well, you got to kick back even more of a percent, or you ain't getting Black Widow. I'll put it on Netflix or Disney Plus, you know, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
That's the way it's always going. It's capital versus labor and everything, right? You know,
I mean, it's conjecture, you know, and I'm trying to stay positive and stay optimistic about everything. I think, you know, it'll all work out.
But what about China? I mean, that's where the big blockbuster grosses. That's where they make their big nuts now. I mean, did they shut down movie theaters there, or no? I don't even know.
My understanding is yes. Oh yeah. I mean, I think that China cracked down super hard. I think that they're opening back up now, but granted, I haven't been like paying as much attention to it.
Well, they wouldn't have protests the way we would have here, so it
Right.
seems to be easier for their government to do that.
Right. Yeah, but I know that they cracked down super hard, and so I'm sure that they shut down movie theaters. But yeah, I mean, I think that it'll all kind of equal out. You know, like I think all these different territories will ultimately sort of find a way to still distribute movies and still put movies out there, and I'm sure that some of the theaters, you know, and some of the companies will probably go under, as with every industry. You know, but I think it'll all kind of work out.
Could also lead to a rise in more DIY art too, like, you know, Atlanta or these places become regional, and you know, the South is starting to have a big burgeoning indie film scene.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you get a couple films shot in Texas and Alabama, and they start playing in a few things in the region the way it used to be, you know, like before major conglomerates went nationwide, you know.
Yeah, it's totally possible. Yeah.
The future's so uncertain.
It's it's weird. I mean, who the fuck knows?
Yeah, I mean, every day it's like, how did we get here? I never expected to live through like an epicene like this, where it's like January was like 8 years ago, and here we are in a crazy world.
I know. My birthday was March 14th, and that was
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you. That was literally like the day before everything closed here.
Beware the day before the Ides of March, man.
Yeah, right. I know. But we were all, you know, we went out. We knew that it was like a thing, and so we like sat like far away from each other at a bar, me and some of my friends, you know, and like we touched elbows and stuff. But of course, then immediately afterwards, it was like shut down, you know, and it's just weird to kind of think back to that and go, God, that feels like it was 8 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I had a friend of mine on who was a comedian, I think on my second episode, and I mentioned that I ran into a comedian that's friends with him on the West 4th platform, and that was my last handshake with another person.
Yeah.
And then I saw our friend Cameron, who runs a really awesome breakfast spot in the neighborhood that's been closed now. And I hit elbows with him, you know, maybe a week later. And like, I washed my elbow there. Like,
right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then from that point, it's been namaste away, you know? Like,
Yeah.
It's all crazy. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, you said you go to all these events, you do promotion, you shake a lot of hands, you know, I play gigs, you know, I shake a lot of hands. Like, what's that going to be like going forward? I mean, fist bumps with gloves.
I think the age of shaking hands is over. You know, I think it's going to be a lot of fist bumps. I think it's going to, you know, it's going to be different. You know, I think that, I mean, like culturally, I predict that shaking hands is sort of a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm going to have to bring back the 80s fingerless gloves so I can still play guitar and then fist bump, you know, safely.
Yeah.
I think that might be the move. You know?
I think go for it. Yeah. It's weird. I mean, and also like I'm a hugger, you know, so like I see old friends and stuff. I want to give them a hug. And so that's going to be different too, is just the you know, that aspect of it, of just kind of like, everything's just going to be like from a distance, like, hey, what's up, dude?
Let me ask you just real quick, because you are involved in the production aspect, you know, a little from my friends out there who are in bands for the licensing aspect. A movie like Bliss, you had some pretty serious punk rock and some metal and a lot of underground music in it. How do bands get their shit to you? How do you guys source and find things for syncing into your movies for the score?
You know, that's a good question. I know that a lot of the stuff that they found was just from bands that they liked, you know, bands that they already listened to. So, I mean, I think the first part of your question would just be, get your stuff out there, you know, like have your stuff on Spotify and like have your stuff available, you know, and, you know, like those guys, you know, Joe and Josh are super into the metal scene. And so they were just really familiar with a lot of that work. You know, and then a couple of the bigger titles, you know, obviously they reached out to those bands and, you know, reached out to them and made offers, you know, to see about licensing the tunes. But yeah, I mean, I think that like you can certainly send your stuff to, like, if there's a production company that makes movies that you like say, you know, your band was like, you know, okay, we're gonna, you know, we really loved Bliss and we really want to work with the guys from Channel 83, you know, that's the company that made it. Then you would go on to IMDB Pro, which you have to have a subscription for.
It's not that crazy. When I did a little bit of acting, I had an account. It wasn't that expensive.
Yeah, you know, but you go on IMDb Pro, and then you're able to search for Channel 83 Productions, and then it has contact info for that production company. And then you contact them that way and say, I want to send you materials. Where do I send it? You know, and that's really what you do, you know. Same with, like, if there's you know, say that there's a director that really loves metal and you want to get your stuff in his hands, you know, then you look through IMDb Pro, you find out who his representation is, and you send it to his representation.
Cool.
You know. And that's kind of the way to go about it.
Well, man, if you're ever shooting a movie where you need a band to be in a scene, we'll come out to LA and we'll be in it, and you can fucking stab us in the necks and shit at the end of it.
Perfect.
You know,
Perfect.
Idle hands or something. It'd be awesome.
Perfect.
But no doubt, man. I see the sun setting behind you, man. I know you're a busy man, so I like to keep them short and sweet, man. So, you know, it's been awesome talking to you. Was there anything we should be on the lookout for coming soon? Oh, not, well, you know, once things lift. So, like, what do you got?
Yeah. Check out Sequence Break on Shudder. Check out Bliss, which is also on Shudder. VFW, which is currently out on. God, it might also be out on Shudder, but it's out on VOD and stuff.
It wasn't. I was looking for it. It's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. Okay. Yeah, you know, and you know, I'm in a film that is in post production right now called Mystery Spot, which we shot in Texas last summer. It's a great indie, like, Twilight Zone-y sort of mystery movie.
Cool.
And I'm sure that that'll be sort of coming up at some point. So just, you know, keep your eyes open and, you know, always keep supporting, you know, indie films in the same way you support indie bands, you know, and you know, seek out stuff, pay for it, and enjoy.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thanks again for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. And
yeah, thanks so much for having me. Good to catch up with you.
Definitely, man. Let me know next time you're in New York or I'm in LA. We'll get together, man. It's been a bit.
That's great. I'd like that.
Oh yeah, man. All right, man. I'll check you later on, man. Peace.
Okay, sounds good. Take it easy.
Later.